All right. Good evening, everybody. Do we have Aya already?
Yes,
Aya.
po.
All right, great. All right, Aya, it's 6:59, so let's get started.
Okay, let's pray po. Lord Jesus,
Recording in progress.
thank you for today's strength and your grace for enabling us to do the things that you want us to do. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity to join this training. And thank you, Lord, for Chris' leadership. And we pray that you will continue to grant him wisdom as he leads borderless accountants and teach us about business taxation. I pray that you will also give us deeper understanding and retention of the lessons we are learning from this training. I also pray that you will give us a favorable and stable internet tonight, and may you continue to bless this hour of learning. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, thank you, Aya. Let me just send some text messages. Right, again, thank you, Aya, for leading our prayer today or tonight. How's everybody doing? Good? All good?
All good.
Wait lang. Check
Hi,
Aya,
how about
ating
you?
co-host for today. So, Adele, I'll have you as the co-host para may magpo-police tayo dun sa mga hindi naka-mute kasi malilate na yun si Kelly. Created by Mike Saunders and Robert Jones. All right, so welcome to our day 3. Wow, sobrang bilis, no? Day 3 na tayo sa ating US Biz Tax course. How's everybody doing so far? Yes, Shari, you have a question or anything you want to say?
Chris, I want to share just yesterday I continued the climb. I think I showed a wrong study unit.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, because I rewatched it and I noticed I showed a wrong study. I think I showed the study unit 3. So I think you better replay. I think it's just 4 minutes left in the farming topic.
all right. Thank you for letting me know,
Sure.
Cherry. So wait, I think we are still in the self-employment income when we were hit by a very slow internet connection. All right. So do we have a recap for the day? No one. Still no one is volunteering. Come on, you guys. We can do better than this. Quote for the day. Let's hear from Alma. Are you here
Hi, good
already?
evening, everyone. Yes po.
Good evening, Alma.
Let
How
me
are you doing?
share. I'm good, coping up with the deadlines, local clients.
Yeah, our deadlines.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a grand team building this weekend with tax help in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
That's why we're so busy. Okay, I'll try to share my screen. You know, I'm not so techy. Okay, attempt 1. Where is that? Here, share. Okay, so I'm gonna share this quote, believe you can and you're halfway there, by Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th US President. Wait lang. Wait lang po. Paano ba to siya exit?
Escape.
Wait lang
Break
po
escape
ha.
on your
Wait
keyboard.
lang. Yeah, because I have to wait. You still see the ano no? The
Yeah, we can still see
code,
the quote.
but it's not in full screen anymore. Is it
Correct.
okay?
Yeah. It's not in full
Okay.
screen anymore.
Okay. Anyway, the quote is still there. So, during my younger years, elementary days and high school days, teachers would use mottos, quotes, proverbs to simply introduce or often as a moral lesson, which builds values and good behavior, and even as a motivation to lead us to the right path. In my elementary days, I usually would hear honesty is the best policy, or it is commonly used or heard in our class or in the campus. During my high school days, since I have barcadas, our group motto is one for all for one, which applies mostly to our kalokohan or lakwatsas, mga lakwatsa. So as we mature, we appreciate more quotes that have deeper meaning, right? So I am not actually I'm not into collecting quotes. I prefer real experiences and actions. I find comfort in strength in Bible verses instead. So when Chris said to find a quote that you like, that defines you, the quote that caught my eye and went straight to my heart, I mean, is based on my virtual journey or career, which this quote reminds me that the first step to any success begins in our mind. Before we achieve something, we have to truly believe that we are capable of doing it. That belief gives you the courage to start, the strength to continue, and the confidence to overcome challenges. When you believe in yourself, you automatically open doors to opportunities because your thoughts shape your actions, even if the road gets tough. Your belief keeps you focused in possibilities, not on problems. In short, self-belief fuels action. Confidence sets the foundation. Action brings the progress. Progress leads to achievement. So whenever we doubt or doubt creeps, always remind yourself that you can do this, or I can do this. Once you believe you can, you have already conquered half the battle. The rest is just taking one step at a time. That's all, Chris.
Thank you, Alma. Yeah, that's very relatable as
So,
well. It's important that we believe in ourselves, because if we don't, who else will, right? And if we don't believe in ourselves, it's hard for us to make others believe in us. Is it not the case? Right. Thank you, Alma, again for sharing that
yes.
quote.
Welcome po.
Right. Now we will go ahead and learn from Adele her tech tip for today. All right, Adele, whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me share my screen. There. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
So, generative AI, or in short, Gen AI. So, we call the Claude, Grok, Perplexity, DeepSeek, and of course, ChatGPT as Gen AI. So, hindi daw, I've heard from somebody that the right term is Gen AI and not just AI. So one of them is ChatGPT Pro, which, oh no, it's ChatGPT Go. Should be Go. Nagkamali pa. So why Gen AI? One of them is ChatGPT Pro, used by everybody. Isn't it?
Oh no,
Kahit
it's
na yung
ChatGPT Go
Perplexity or
should be
whatever,
Go.
not just
Kamali pa.
So why
ChatGPT?
Gen
One of them
AI?
is
And Gen AI is
Pro,
used
maybe
by
3 days
everybody.
ago, I came
Isn't it?
across
Oh
an
no, kahit na
article
yung
ChatGPT
about
Go
ChatGPT or whatever,
Go,
not just
which just
kamali
bridges
pa.
the
So why
gap.
Gen
One of them
AI?
is
And
version
Gen AI is
ChatGPT
used
maybe
by
3 days
everybody.
ago, I came
Isn't it?
across
Oh
an
no, kahit na
article
yung
cheapest
about
Go.
ChatGPT or
Cheapest
whatever,
Go,
not
$20,
which
just
just
bridges
So
the
why
gap.
Gen
One of them
AI?
is
And
version
Gen AI
ChatGPT
is
which
used
maybe
by
3 days
everybody.
ago, I
The
came
version
across
of ChatGPT accessible to us. Okay, so what sabi? Ito yung article that I saw just 3 days ago. The Philippines is among the top 5 ChatGPT user in Asia. So not all countries are offered ChatGPT Go. So and Philippines is one. Kaya maybe we can use this. Actually, once I saw that, I immediately subscribe. Imagine that. No. So, sabi nga, it's just 300 per month. Remember that the Pro is starting at 1,000 per month or $20 per month plus VAT. But with Go, ChatGPT Go, 300 is inclusive of VAT. Yeah. And it uses GPT-5, actually automatic siya. So once you gave a prompt, it's the one, ChatGPT will be the one to distinguish which is the best to use for 4, 4.5, or 5. And then plus thinking. So I've experienced that once na I've been asking so many prompts, and at the end of that, I asked him to summarize what he just gave me, all those information. And I saw that he used the thinking feature. Yeah. So that was the first time that I have used that thinking. So what's included in the 300 per month? It's the extended access to ChatGPT 5. Although in the free version, we have a choice to use GPT-5, but very limited. And extended access to image generation. I have not used generation with the ChatGPT Go, but during my free version, I guess once I've used that. Extended access to file upload. So heavy user ako with uploading files and asking ChatGPT to analyze the file. Yan, kaya I availed of that. And longer memory for more personalized responses. Kasi we want ChatGPT to know us. Diba? We want ChatGPT to know us so that whatever answers he gives us, it will be personalized. Whatever our profession is, it will be based on that. So we want that. We want that ChatGPT will be giving us the most applicable for us. And access to projects, tasks, and custom GPTs if you want to have our custom prompts. Although I have not done that. So here is a comparison of between the free plan and ChatGPT Go. So yung standard has a limit. So it has a limit on a daily basis, but for Go, it says that it's 10 times, although I have not felt that. I'm really a heavy user, and even with the subscription of ChatGPT Go, at around the evening 9, I have used everything. The message limit that is allowed for me. File upload, so it says multiple files, but then again, as I've said, I really used up every limit I have. So as I've said, image generation, I have not done this. I have not accessed the image generation yet for the Go, and memory context, double memory down. for the ChatGPT Go. Again, that's personalization. And again, that's 300 per month, including VAT. And for the FAQ, subscription are billed monthly. So unlike with Pro, which we have a choice if we want it to be billed monthly or annual. So for this one, monthly lang siya. Includes higher usage limit, as we've said, and automatically decides when to use its thinking. So last resort niya yung thinking kasi. Voice mode is included. Again, I have not used the voice mode pag-aralan ko because I've seen some YouTubers who are just talking on their phone. So I want to have that also. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. I think that's very helpful. No? Generative AI, it doesn't just give you answers from anywhere. It provides customized answers based on your previous searches, based on your profile. So it's good. I have not used any premium AI, but I am considering ChatGPT Go now. Say, affordable lang naman siya, right? Thank you, Adele. I actually just look it
Thank
up
you.
on my phone earlier, and I'm considering starting my subscription. And you guys should consider that too. I think it works pretty much as Perplexity. I just really love, or I don't know, because I've been using Perplexity for quite a while already. I love the responsiveness. So it becomes like my default AI. But let's see if ChatGPT Go can beat Perplexity as far as I'm concerned. Okay. But otherwise, thank you, Adele, for sharing that. All right, guys, are you excited for our quiz for today? Yesterday, we had Matt topping the quiz. Let's see if he can maintain that, or anybody can challenge Matt. Right. So I'm just going to share with you the link right into the chat. And a lot of these were coming from our discussion yesterday. So code is 169251. And then I'll also share with you the snippet of the code. So just a reinforcement of what we have covered yesterday. And if you're using your phone, better to use it. It's faster. Or I don't know what Matt used yesterday, but based on experience, mabilis pag sa phone. Go, Mary Chris, you can do it. Right, 70 people. Let's start automatically, or let's pump the start button when we reach 100. And then the rest, you can just come in at any time. Right, I guess it will just start right now. Good luck. Right, it's a liability, right? As per our discussion yesterday. All right, Vladi stay in the lead. Which is not a business entity type? Is it nonprofit club? Is it S corporation, disregarded entity, or partnership? Kaalin dyan ang hindi natin natackle. Right, so it was a nonprofit club. Di natin na-discuss yan ever. Right, Mel's coming on top. Self-employment tax rate is approximately, sa slide ni Delio. Does it work on your phone? Is 15.3%. Let's see how many got that right. Does it say 18 people got it right? All right, Mel's still on top. Which form reports cancellation of debt income? Is it Form 1040? Is it a W-2? Is it a 1099 MISC? Or is it a 1099C? It is a 1099C. MISC, usually that's for rent. Right. Mel still leading. What counts as gross income for businesses? Is it only profits, revenue, or revenue including COGS? Revenue minus COGS. Remember, it's gross income. Answer is revenue including COGS. That's your gross income. Revenue minus COGS is gross profit, right? So Jason is now coming on top. Passive rental income is reported on which form? Is it on Form 1120? Is it on Schedule E? Or is it Schedule D or Schedule C? Right, it's on Schedule E. Schedule D is capital gain. Schedule C is self-employment income. Form 1120 is C Corp. Right, great job, Mel. On top now. Halfway there. Tax benefit rule applies to what? Is it on federal tax refunds? Is it on state tax refunds? Is it on property tax? Or is it on sales tax? For all YouTube watchers and Facebook watchers, are you able to join the game? Right, it's on state tax refunds. Again, that was covered extensively yesterday. Good job, Mel. Recovered bad debts are considered what? Is it asset? Is it an income? Is it an expense? Or is it a liability? Right, it is an income. Generally. Right, sino si 169251? Make sure you put your nickname or your name. Self-employment tax covers which taxes? Is it sales tax? Is it income tax only? Is it the Social Security and Medicare? Or is it property tax? So the 15.3% self-employment tax covers what?
Ako pala yun. Hindi ko na, yung name ko.
That's all right, Arnold. Right, it covers the Social Security and Medicare taxes. All right, Mel, good job. What is a valid accounting period? Again, what is a valid accounting period? Is it only fiscal year? Is it calendar year? Is it random months or week only? This should be a bonus question. Right, it's a calendar year. All right, JR coming on top 5. Good job. So this is just a poll. How familiar are you with business tax preparation? Are you somewhat familiar? Are you on the expert level? Are you quite familiar or not familiar at all? I'm interested. Meron na ba tayo ditong expert level? I'd love to get to know you. May dalawang expert na. Nasa-search ko yun mamaya, guys. I'll reach out to you. True or false? Sales tax is federal income. Is it true or false? Sales tax is federal income. Right, of course it is false because sales tax is, in fact, a liability. Wow, Mel, and is it Arnold that's coming on the second place? Last 2 questions. Which form reports business income for sole proprietors? Is it Schedule E, Schedule A, Schedule C, or Form 1120? Nabanggit na to kanina, guys. Right, it is Schedule C. Schedule E, again, rentals. Schedule A is itemized deductions. Right, Mel, undefeated. Active rental income requires what kind of management? Is it only leasing agent, no management, passive oversight, or active management? Right, it is active management. So if it's active management, that means it gets recorded into the Schedule C. Right, good job, Mel. Congratulations. Let's give Mel a round of applause. Absent ata si Matt, kaya wala siya. Or mahina yung internet. So we have Matt yesterday, Mel today. Good job, you guys. I keep a note, or I put the top scorer in our shared file. So we keep track, right? Keep track of our top performers. And you guys can still make habol. We are still in our day 2. So marami pa tayong pwedeng you can still catch up. Isn't that the case? And again, just make sure to put your name, your real name, when you're joining. All right, so how did that make you feel, guys? Did you have fun? Reasonable naman yung mga questions. Everything naman was discussed yesterday, right?
Yes.
And relate dun sa AI. Gamit ko dyan AI din. So I use AI based on the transcript of our meeting yesterday, so I didn't have to do, you know, I didn't have to spend a lot of time doing it. Practically took me less than 5 minutes to compose those questions. Right, so AI has definitely made our lives easier. Isn't that the case? Don't you just love the age of AI? Si Adele, si Alma, si Milds, si Mario Vic, uh, sino pa ba si Jean? You guys. You would only wish you have it during your days, right? You could only wish. But sabi naman nila, it's still good na naranasan natin. Kasama talaga ako. Yung mga days na wala years or yung time na wala pang AI, because now we can appreciate AI even more. And if mawala man yung AI, we still can do things quite effectively, right? Because we know it. We know how it's done traditionally. Agree? And we can be in a position to know to use AI a lot better. Kasi AI is user-driven din naman siya. Can depende yun sa kung ano yung ini-input mo. Right? All right, are we still good? Time check, 7:30. So now we should be proceeding with with the resumption of our course yesterday. Unless anyone would want to say something. Let me just quickly go through the chat. Chris, can I share a few tips on Google Sheets? Nora, of course you can, Nora. I'd love for you to have that in the suggestions or in the, if it's a tech tip, put that on the Google Sheet. Oh, you already have it. So your 22nd October, actually we'll have you tomorrow. So why is it Wednesday? Right. So I just updated the calendar. So you will have you share, Nora, Google Sheets tomorrow, and then Joel on Friday, something about Excel. And the rest, guys, Monday until Friday next week are still blank, right? So please, if you plan on sharing something, feel free to do so, okay? Yan na lang yung contribution nyo, right? So that, everybody gets to know you as well. Okay, with that said, let's continue where we left off yesterday. Let me just share my screen. This one. So yesterday we covered gross income. So we finished that already. And we're almost done with self-employment. But again, we were hit with really terrible internet connection. So
self-employment income happens when a
where we left
taxpayer
off on
works for
schedule
themselves as opposed
Give
to
me
an
one
employer.
second.
Let's
Just move it to a different screen. You guys can still see my screen, correct? There we go. Okay. Let's just
check
fast
out how
forward
this
it
impacts
from around.
taxes. So what's included in an employee, so they are liable for both 7.65% twice, hence 15.3%. There is a deduction allowed for the employer portion. The Social Security tax component has an income cap which adjusts for inflation each year, though the rate remains the same. Once self-employment income exceeds this cap, the Social Security tax is no longer applicable. However, the Medicare tax component always applies. There is an additional Medicare tax, which is 0.9%, and that applies to all taxpayers, both employed and self-employed. We should acknowledge that here as well. While it is technically not self-employment tax, it does still apply, but only once income is over $200,000. Note in your GLIME knowledge transfer outline, there are a few exclusions from the net income from self-employment base, such as parsonage income and other items we discussed in the excluded slide, as well as health insurance premiums for self-employed taxpayers. Interestingly, however, contributions to a qualified retirement plan are not excluded. Farmers are self-employed taxpayers, but they might have a bit of a challenge. They may not know what their income is for a given year, depending on commodity prices, the weather, and many other factors. Plus, and being from the Midwest, I certainly appreciate how hard our farmers work, and there is a sort of tax break for them. If their gross farm income is below the threshold presented in your GLIME knowledge transfer outline, then 2/3 of their gross farm income is their net income subject to self-employment taxes. If the gross farm income is above the inflation-adjusted threshold, then a fixed amount is subject to self-employment tax. Finally, because self-employment taxes fund Social Security and Medicare, some religious affiliations have an opposition to these provisions. As such, there is an opt-out to these taxes using Form 4361. Well, that's it for self-employment tax. Thanks for watching.
All right. Get ready for the quiz.
Which of the following individuals is not subject to self-employment taxes? Okay, not, and even written in all capital letters for us, so that means...
Make a guess, guys. I know we've not covered that. Just clear all drawings.
We ought to find three that are fairly similarly related. First one, Ted receives $5,000 for serving as a director of a corporation. So is Ted in the business of serving as a director of a corporation? Is that kind of hands-on activity? Yeah, I would say so, because you're attending board meetings, you are making extraordinary decisions about the direction of a corporation. So that one seems like it's pretty hands-on. Paula, an attorney, received $43,000 as her distributive share of her law firm's partnership. So if she's a partner in an active service level practice, she is an attorney, that's what she does for a living in that partnership. Again, seems very hands-on to me. That's what we're looking for with respect to self-employment, generally speaking, hands-on kind of perspective. Clint, real estate dealer, had net rental income of $112,000 on property held for sale. So Clint, being in the business of a real estate dealer and happen to have some rental income, kind of sounds like self-employment to me as well. Susan, limited partner. And there ends up being the really big important piece there, my friends, is the fact that Susan's a limited partner. This is nothing more than an investment for her. That's really what this is. So for that reason, we are going to select D as our answer and move on to the next one. If a company is an accrual-based taxpayer, what is the...
Right. This is one thing you all know. I don't know if it's going to be covered in the 1065 session. 1065 is partnership return, and there will be 2 or more partners. And at least one of those partner will have to be general partner, right? So if a general partner has a distributive share of the income, that will be subject to self-employment tax. If it's limited, then it's not subject to self-employment tax. Okay, you would know that because you will see a form schedule SE. Let me open ProConnect. So when any income is subject to a self-employment tax, again, the tax software, they're pretty smart already. They will help you populate the schedules and the calculations. All you really have to do is input, and you gotta input it right, because there are possibilities where you're inputting a K1 statement and you miss to indicate that the partner is a general partner rather than a limited partner. So you have to be thorough when you're looking at a K1 and entering that K1 into a Form 1040. Excuse me. So let's go here. Let's use this again. So whenever someone has a K1, you will know based on the K1 statement if it's a K1 from a partnership or from an 1120S. Okay. And for ProConnect, where you will input a K1 statement is through here, pass through K1s, right? Pass through K1s. And then see, you have a K1 from a partnership or a Form 1065, a K1 from an 1120S. There is an estate K1 as well from 1041. So let's say, for example, this is a K1 from a 1065 partnership. There is a provision here where you will indicate whether that partner is limited or general. Let's see. Where is it? I'm not seeing it here in ProConnect. Again, some software has different way of inputting things. Let's look it up. Maybe here. Or sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, right? Like the entire screen. Let me stop sharing and then share again. So you guys see my screen, correct? I'm not seeing an input for general or limited partner in ProConnect, so I'll use Perplexity. In other words, the general versus limited partner indicator is controlled from the partnership input K1 worksheet, which then flows to the individual 1040 pass-through. You want to verify or change the designation from self-employment tax cycle purposes, you need to do it in the partnership K1 worksheet in ProConnect, not directly in the individual K1 input screen. All right, so it's from the 1065 return itself pala. So let me go to create tax return. And let's just add new. And then let's do business. Say borderless accountants. And just make up an EFIN or EIN. And you can do this exercise as well from where you are. Let's just clear those drawings. Right, and then we'll select 1065. So input return. You have your partner information. So in the partner information, this is where you indicate whether that partner is a general partner or a passive partner. Passive, that means limited. Okay. And then some for Form 1065, these entities can be partners, right? Other entities can be partners in a partnership. Right. So that's just a demonstration of how to indicate whether a partner is general or limited and what are the repercussion or what are the implication of that in the partner's tax situation. Okay.
The amount of gross receipts reported on the taxpayer's Form 1040 Schedule C based on the information below. Okay, so accrual-based taxpayer, and we're trying to look at self-employment, right? Because we're looking at Schedule C. So if the taxpayer earns service income, should that be included? Absolutely. We'll give that 3 checks. So we're going to include.
Right. So service income is 25. What about gain on sale of an asset, 15? Do you think that should be on Schedule C? Why or why not? What about interest? Is that a Schedule C income? Why or why not? Yeah, let's have JD continue.
The $25,000. Now, most folks on the second item, most folks aren't in the business of selling their business assets. So although there's a gain, to me, it doesn't seem like that's going to be in the ordinary course of your business. So this gain on the sale of an asset is actually not going to be included. Interest on accounts receivable. Now, while this is attributable to the business activities because it's for the accounts receivable, nobody is in the business of just sitting there waiting to receive interest on accounts receivable as opposed to actual payment. As a business owner, I tell you, I'd much rather have the money as opposed to earning interest on the money from my clients sitting on their accounts payable. So for that accounts receivable, although it's related, I am not going to include that on my Schedule C for my business income either. So we really only have the 25,000.
Right. So answer there is 25,000. The others, gain on sale of the asset. This is a capital gain. This is still an income, but this will not be reported on Schedule C. Rather, this will be reported on Schedule D. Right. Interest on accounts receivable. This is also an income, but not reported on Schedule C, rather on Schedule B. Okay. And tip ko lang guys, before, when I was starting in my career as a tax practitioner, every time I go to an interview, I make sure to mention mga schedules, right? Like I know Schedule C, I know how to prepare Schedule D, Schedule E, because that means, you know, I'm setting an impression before the interviewer that I know what I'm talking about. because I give him details, right? And so whenever I'm asked like, what complex returns have you prepared? So complex returns I prepared, I would usually say, on top of the usual income, I have prepared 1040 returns with Schedule C, various Schedule D, and even Schedule E for multiple rental properties. Pag narinig yun ng interviewer, medyo alam na alam niya itong sinasabi niya. And he's in fact done a lot of returns that are complex. Kasi again, pag maraming schedules yung return, that means it's a complex return. But if you've only done returns and it's only W-2, 1099s, those are very easy returns and basic.
Dollars out of these three items that we need to include. The other items just aren't included. Let's talk about gross income from farming. This includes gross farm income, gross farm rental income, and gains from the sale of livestock that were raised on the farm or purchased for resale. So, what exactly is included in gross farm income? Gross farm income includes income from farming, which is received from cultivating the soil or raising or harvesting agricultural commodities. Think crops like corn and soybeans. It can also include gains from the sale of livestock when raised on a farm or purchased for resale. The basis of livestock is generally the cost of the animals. In either case, crops or livestock, income is reported on Schedule F of the 1040. Rent received from the use of farmland is generally rental income unless it is rent received from crop shares or unless you materially participate in the lessee's operation. If it's based on crops or livestock produced by the tenant and is a rental activity for passive activity loss limitations, you use Form 4835 to report it. Gains from the sale of livestock used for draft, dairy, breeding, or sporting purposes generally result in capital gains and are not reported on Schedule F. Instead, these gains are reported on Form 4797. There's a great summary chart in your Gleim Knowledge Transfer Outline I want you to check out. Agricultural program payments, such as farm subsidies, those are reported on Schedule F and are subject to self-employment taxes. Most government payments for approved conservation practices must be included in income, but some payments under certain cost-sharing conservation programs can be excluded. If you buy farm supplies through a cooperative, you may receive income in the form of patronage dividends, which are reported to you on Form 1099 PATR. If you sell your farm products through a cooperative, you may receive either patronage dividends or a per unit retain certificate, which are also reported on Schedule F. So how does capitalization and depreciation work for farmers? If you produce real or tangible personal property or acquire property for resale, certain expenses must be included in inventory costs or capitalized. These include direct costs of the property and a share of any indirect costs. Farmers can deduct depreciation on buildings, improvements, cars, trucks, machinery, and other permanent farm equipment, but not on personal items, land, or livestock bought or raised for resale. Schedule F does not include gains and losses from sales or other dispositions of farmland. That's Section 1231 property, depreciable farm equipment, which would be Section 1245 property, and buildings and structures, which would be Section 1250 property. Farming can be a challenge. Who knows what crop yields will be like from one year to the next? One year you might have what farmers call a bumper crop, which means a huge harvest, and the next year there could be a drought. If you're engaged in a farming or fishing business, you may be able to average all or some of your current year's farm income using income rates from the 3 prior years. This is done by filing Schedule J with your income tax return. So in that same vein of thought, not knowing what will happen with the weather, gains from sales of livestock caused by drought, flood, or other weather-related conditions can be postponed for 4 years. If you sell more livestock than usual due to these conditions, you can choose to exclude the gain in income next year and include the income next year as opposed in the current year. With this unpredictability, farmers typically take out insurance policies. Crop insurance and disaster payments are generally included in income in the year that they are received. However, you can elect to include the proceeds in income for the tax year following the year in which the crops were damaged. As you'd imagine, making estimated payments then for farmers can be very challenging. If you qualify as a farmer by receiving at least 2/3 of your total gross income from farming, you have special rules for estimated taxes. You can pay all estimated taxes by January 15th and file your Form 1040 return by April 15th, or you can file your 1040 return and pay all taxes due by March 1st. On any given year, these dates may be shifted slightly due to weekends and holidays, so check your Gleim Knowledge Transfer outline for this year's dates. Be sure to include any alternative minimum tax you expect to owe in your estimated tax calculation as well. Well, that wraps up our harvest of farming income and expense. Thanks for watching. Which of the following statements with respect to farmers is true? So one of the things that I try to think about for farmers is, well, what are they in the business of? They are in the business of just take a real simple farm, growing crops, and selling those crops, right? That is what they are in the business of. And if there's anything outside of the scope of that kind of core business, it probably is a little bit extraordinary. It's not part of their ordinary income. So it's just kind of a good little reminder for yourself. So let's kind of think through these. Is it true that the sale of livestock used for breeding purposes results in capital gains? So here, the breeding livestock, that's an asset to the farmer, right? That's really not all that different than the tractor that the farmer would use as well. In this case, they are the tractor to plow the fields and grow the crops. In the case of raising livestock, we are using the breeding livestock to produce more livestock, which would be the inventory, much like the crops. So that's kind of one way to think about that, is that's they're in the business of raising and selling cattle, which is really no different than raising and growing corn and selling the corn. So maybe we can treat that breeding livestock as kind of like a tractor. So I'm gonna put a star at that one. We'll come back to that. Let's see how these other ones are. B, a farmer is exempt from paying estimated taxes. Well, it's not that they're exempt, it's that they do get a special rule that allows them to not necessarily make quarterly estimated payments. It's not that they're completely exempt, so don't let that one fool you. B, the sale of livestock raised on the farm results in capital gains. So this is now the complete opposite of A, which is considering that, okay, if you raise livestock, you breed and raise livestock and then sell them, it's all capital gains. But if you're breeding and raising livestock, that kind of sounds like inventory and the business that you are in, which is distinctly different than A. D says income reported on Schedule F includes gains from sale of farmland or depreciable farm equipment. Now, we know that those capital assets do get special treatment. That's kind of ringing in the back of our minds, so maybe that doesn't belong there. The correct answer on this, my friends, is A. The sale of livestock used for breeding purposes results in capital gains. And for the exact reason that we were thinking through, kind of trying to think of it as instead of breeding cattle, we were, growing crops like corn. And what if this were our tractor? It's really no different in the eyes of the tax code. Going back to D here for a second. Income reported on Schedule F includes gains. Is that true? Well, not necessarily, right? That's not going to be true. Schedule F is going to be truly for our farming operations. These other items are a bit extraordinary. So remember, we were looking for the item that's true. Don't hesitate to go back and read the STEM one more time, even though this is a very small prompt. But the correct answer for us here is A. And remember that trick about farmers to think through that a little bit better. and perhaps easier, and hopefully it helps you on the exam.
Right. So let's just make sense here. The sale of livestock used for breeding purposes results in capital gain. Yes, because hindi naman ito yung main business ni farmer. A farmer is exempt from paying estimated tax. That is not true. They still are required to pay estimated taxes. They just have different preference. My a little favor sa kanila. The sale of livestock raised in farm results in capital gains. Now, these are the ordinary business, and this is reported in Schedule F. Income reported on Schedule F includes gains from farmland or depreciable farm equipment. It's not Schedule F, it should be Schedule D, right, for capital gains. So, basic lang naman yung tinatanong sa EA exam for farming because it's not very common. And I think encountered only 1 or 2 Schedule F in my entire 6 years of preparing tax returns.
Sam. If you sell more livestock than you normally would in a year because of a drought, flood, or other weather-related conditions, you may be able to postpone reporting the gain from selling the additional animals until the next year. You must meet all of the following conditions to make this election except. Okay, so which one do we not have to have in order to make this election? 1, you can show that under your usual business practices, you would not have sold the animals this year except for the weather-related conditions. Well, it seems kind of reasonable, right? You got to prove out that it wasn't just sunny and 75 and you decided to go ahead and sell these animals. Okay. B, the weather-related conditions caused an area to be designated as eligible for assistance by the federal government. And that really is a tenet that we see a lot in taxation, right? We remember kind of thinking about that with personal losses, casualty losses, and it had to be in a federally declared disaster. That's something that's kind of implanted in our brains. Okay. C, you use the accrual method. Most folks actually use the cash method. They don't necessarily use the accrual method. So that seems remarkably unfair that folks that just want to keep things simple and use the cash method can't take advantage of this. So that's kind of interesting. So C is kind of holding out there for me, is that doesn't seem fair. D, your principal trade or business is farming. That does seem fair, right? So that one kind of makes sense. So the answer on this, my friends, is definitely C. It is not a requirement that the accrual method of accounting is one of the mandates that you must meet in order to take advantage of this special provision. So sometimes you can take a step back in these questions and think about it from a fundamental fairness perspective. And how would this apply to folks in different walks of life? And in this case, when we think about the costs of managing your books and records in the accrual method, might be cost prohibitive to some folks. Therefore, they just want to keep things simple, use the cash method. Why should they get excluded? So for that deduction and way that we can break things down, that's one of the ways we can come up with it, is just think about it from a fundamental fairness perspective.
All right, there you go, folks. We have just completed this lesson 2 of the GLIME EA material. So we've covered the gross income for self-employment. Okay, again, gross income for self-employment. And then we talk about self-employment income, the tax rate, and then so self-employment income again is Schedule C, right? So now you're familiar with Schedule C. For those who have taken the individual tax course, you're very familiar with Schedule C, right? You prepared a tax return with a Schedule C, correct? And then farming income and expenses is new to you because we have not tackled this in the individual tax return. This is Schedule F, right? This is still part of the individual tax return, just a different schedule. So now, by now, you already are familiar with 2 schedules on the Form 1040 tax return. Schedule C for self-employment income, Schedule F for farming. Okay pa tayo? Are we all good? Making sense so far? Isn't it exciting? Sa mga Philippine tax practice, one thing I think you will realize, I'm not preempting anything, but you will realize that actually US tax is so much more simple than the Philippines. Because it's very efficient and there is a lot of references, right? There's a lot of references. If it's like something that's new to you, there's always chat GPT, there's always like resources like Line that you can refer to. Unlike, this is just my opinion, unlike when you are confronted with kind of an unusual matter and it's involving Philippine tax, halos wala kang mapagtanungan, right? Because if you do a chat GPT, it might not give you the right answer because, you know, the resources that were put into the database are not really vetted, right? Because konti ang nag-share sa atin ng materials online. So that's just one realization that I have. And let me know as we go along if you have that same impression, right? It may be too early for you to tell at this point. Okay, so now, mukhang mahirap ang kahoots bukas sa aming forms na nabanggit. Dali lang yun, Cherry. 3 forms lang to. Schedule C, Schedule D. Merong nakabanggit na Form 4797 ba yun? Yung sa depreciation. Schedule D for capital gains. But these schedules, you have to keep it to heart, right? Because although they are, I would say, again, provided by the software, if you know these by heart, you can already, when you're talking to a prospect client, you would know how to price your engagement better, right? Because you would already be able to assess how many schedules will the taxpayer have in his return. And usually that's how engagement are priced. Depends on the schedules, right? So if it's like W2 only and 1099, sobrang dali, it's probably a very cheap rate. But if it goes beyond that, like meron ng Schedule C, Schedule F, Schedule D, then you may want to raise your rate a little higher or maybe even more. All right, so where do I go from here? Just go back. No. All right, so I'll go to home. So now, ilang months mo lahat doon na nagamay, Chris? Joseph, it took a while, of course, for me. I think I had 1 year of experience doing 1040 first before I got myself into business tax returns. But the Form 1040, it's very easy to learn, really. Like, matter of a month or two, I think. Because when I got into US tax, application agad. Right? Application as in data input agad. There's a training materials, and then right after I was already given access to the portal, training on how to go about entering those information into the tax software. So mabilis because there's actual application. And that's what I would want you guys to experience. That's why I'm doing my best to provide you internship, because only then can you truly say that you have learned US tax. Without an actual practice, you may not be that confident to really take on an interview, or may not even land a job even if you go through an interview, simply because the confidence will not translate during the interview, right? And you may be asked questions, or you may be asked to demonstrate how to prepare a tax return. So yeah, the internship will give you that experience, but the class or the lessons that we're going to have, as much as possible, we are also going to provide you mock returns to prepare. Mock returns meaning you would be able to familiarize yourself with navigating the software, entering the tax return, and even be able to review your own work, your mock work, right? So we're going to do that still. But for you to be, I would say, for you to be able to truly immerse yourself and say you have an experience, that's where the internship comes. right? That's why I mentioned to you guys yesterday, and thank you for those who already heed the call of connecting in LinkedIn, because that's how we get noticed, right? Because we may have an internship at WITA, but one thing that I was talking to Sam last week, and he was saying, Chris, did you know how expensive it is to get a license from our for our tech stack? Meaning you'll have to have access to TaxDome, you have TaxDome is a CRM, you'll have to have access to an email, you have to have access to, let's start, and these are expensive software. So then I realized, shoot, I did not consider that into the equation, the cost of the licenses. Because if you're going to be doing actual returns, then you'll have to use the tech stack, right? But I'm still thinking on how to go about that. Another thing that I'm considering really is, one, connecting with people in LinkedIn where they can provide internship. So direct kayo mag-i-intern sa kanila, right? And that's why, believe it or not, guys, I've been messaging people in LinkedIn. I have not been doing it because I have not used LinkedIn at all for any job application, but I have used LinkedIn to present myself like, hey, this is Chris. I founded Borderless Accountants, and these are our mission, our goal. Are you interested to talk about a possible internship, right? And I would lead that firm owner to our YouTube channel so that he or she can assess the level of training that we have, right? So far, meron ako isa, right? Meron ako isa. Although I got to know the person for quite a while already. We're meeting sometime today. He could provide internship, and he has got connections too. But I will have more as we go along. And so for one, I already put my LinkedIn profile in the shared file. If you guys can help, because that could also benefit you, really. It's not for me, but the goal is for me to be able to get to those CPA firm owners and let us get us known. Like, what is Borders Account? What do we do, right? And then what's going to happen is that if I engage them in a conversation, then I get to tell them this is the goal, right? To give these people the opportunity to practice US tax. They cannot get hired because they don't have experience. Usually, for firms like you would require 2 or 3 years of experience, right? And even a CPA or an EA designation. But why don't you try people that I can recommend to you from Borders Accountants? You know, we are under delivering, we will over promise. You know what I mean? Because once you get to the internship, if you already know how to navigate the tax software, if you already know the basic forms, then you will impress that employer, right? Or the firm owner. And then when you impress them, you may actually get the job, right? Instead of just an internship, you may be able to get offered a job. So that's how you can get to the door. You know what I mean? And the same thing, I have not used Upwork for a long time already. Again, because I'm not applying for a job. I'm happy with WITA. I'm earning pretty well with WITA too. That's why I'm not charging you anything for this course. Kasi may mga nababasa ako online. Why are they selling a course? If they're doing a good job at earning from what they do, why do they have to sell a course? Which makes sense, right? They may be average people working an average job, right? But that's not what we do here at Borderless Accountants, right? Again, there's a principle of paying it forward. So I could not do it. I can live comfortably not having to do this tax course. I swear to God. But it's just that I'm doing things that I only benefit. That's not who I am, right? I want to be able to again pay it forward. And there is the reason why US tax is lucrative, meaning you would earn a lot in US tax, because there's a huge barrier for entry. Not everybody can get in, right? Not everybody can get in because, again, when you apply, you will have to have experience, right? And you have to have training. Even if you go through a training, like for example Bedrock, and so other course provider out there, you would still not be able to get the job, because it doesn't matter to employers whether you have training or not. They would still look for the experience, right? And if you don't get an interview, you would not get a job, right? So there has to be a way that we can get you employed even if you don't necessarily have an actual experience from a firm, and that's through internship, right? And that's where we can use our connections. And later on, as WITA grows as well, you may have a space within WITA and the partners that WITA will have in the future, right? But for now, we'll use what we have. We'll use what we have because we cannot wait until next year for you to be able to get your fit wet, right? So the way we're doing that is we're reaching out to as many people as possible in LinkedIn and Upwork. Because Upwork, then what I can do is I'm actually looking again. I'm sorry, not again. I'm looking for someone who's really good with navigating Upwork now, because I have a lot of connects in Upwork because I haven't been using it. And then I can reach out to jobs in Upwork and can delegate those tasks to you, or I can come before a prospect employer, maybe Upwork, maybe online jobs PH. And again, we present ourselves as a community. So we have a lot of tax preparers that are only looking to get the experience, right? And so they can provide those, right? They can provide those because, like, if they're instead of hiring someone, right, they can hire either unpaid or paid interns, right? And they can have the budget for it because they don't have to hire someone. So that budget of hiring someone, they can invest in a tax stack. Tax stack, again, that means licenses to the tax software. You will have to have license to the tax software. And let's pray na makakita tayo ng tax firm na ang gamit niya is ProConnect. Kasi ProConnect, you don't have to buy the license. You only have to pay for each return that you file. But if the firm is using Lacert, Drake, or not even Drake, Lacert, UltraTax, CCH, these ones you cannot use with a free license or unlicensed. You have to dedicate that particular license to one preparer, right? So again, if I'm looking forward to spending time venturing into Upwork in the next few months, because again, November and December, these are hiring seasons, right? These are hiring seasons. And if we can get you to intern for a firm, be open to that possibility, right? Be open to that possibility. Hindi naman full-time intern na you will work 8 hours a day. That would probably be unreasonable. So if you're working, we can arrange for like a 2 or 3 hour internship on a daily basis, or it depends on your availability, of course, right? So that one we can sell as an idea to the tax firm owner, because I would already know what their bottlenecks are or what are their issues. So if again we can get an appointment with someone, then I can propose that idea. And that idea actually made sense. I talked to Carol. Yan connected me to Carol. Carol again is a CPA in the US. And she used to because she's connected with a lot of CPAs in the US, and she's been actually engaging with Yan to hire tax preparers. And when I look at the job descriptions, I would always say, like, I don't think you can hire people with these requirements. Why? Because it's just too advanced. These people that you're looking for, they're not looking for a job. They're likely employed and happy where they are right now. So you're looking for a CPA. That was a primary requirement. They're looking for 2 or 3 years of tax experience. If these people are employed, they're not looking for a job. So who are you targeting? Nobody, right? So I told Carol that you may want to rethink your requirements, right? And Carol told me, yeah, makes sense, Chris. That's why it took us a while. Even now, the message siya sa LinkedIn, I'll show you. Wag na lang kasi meron pa lang personal communication. But she reached out to me just today that she's still looking for a CPA nga na tax preparer, because they have not been able to hire for a very long time already. And so when I told her that, she told us, her response was, it completely makes sense to me. However, I'm very tied right now because I'm working with other CPAs in the US, right? I'm working with other CPAs in the US. So ganito yung requirement nila. Kasi parang naging headhunter siya, right? But she's considering putting her own firm, buying another CPA firm that she would 100% own, and then she can give us a try. So I hope that happens, right? And yeah, Carol's on LinkedIn and she's been following us, our post as well. She's been sharing even the posts that we have. So she's just one of those, right? And it's only been a few months that we've been doing this. Imagine if we continue to do this, continue the momentum, continue building your skills, I'd be even more confident to sell your services to these firms. Right? You know what I'm saying? And the thing with US tax is that once you learn, you will only learn more, right? You will only learn more. And the more years that you spend on tax, the more that you become expensive. You get what I'm saying? 1 year of tax, and then you are also a CPA. Oh, after a year, you'll probably be very, very expensive. Even if you're not yet a CPA, right? Even if you're not yet a CPA, if you have that 1 year or 2 years experience that you can actually translate again in an interview, you will be expensive. I'm telling you, the rate for US tax preparers right now is more than double a bookkeeper's rate. That's what I'm saying. So enough said, right? Enough said. So let's move on to the next lesson, which is the rental property and loss limitations. Unless my mga comments kayo, reactions that you would want to raise, I will now continue with the third lesson. So rental property and loss, you guys are seeing my screen, correct? Or maybe not. You guys are, right? It's not saying I'm sharing my screen. Oh, you guys see it. Good. So we have covered again Schedule C, Schedule F, now rental property and loss limitation. This is related to Schedule. Merong Schedule C, again, if actively managed, Schedule E if passive. But a lot of the discussions will be about loss limitations. And this is very interesting, guys. Right, may nagtatanong ng email. Yeah, sometimes LinkedIn asks for an email if you want to connect. So the email is just chris.ayade@gmail.com. That simple. All right, so let's hit the introduction video for lesson number 3. Diba, ang bilis natin. Tatapos tayo dito before November siguro. Before end of November, I mean.
Many taxpayers own rental property and receive rental income from their tenants. It brings up so many great questions. How is this income taxed? What expenses can be used to offset that income? Are there any limitations? And these are all great questions. And by the end of this study unit, you will have a better understanding of how, and more importantly, when rental income received as cash, property, or services is taxed. We'll also look at the nuances of rental property expenses, including how we deal with occasional rentals and vacation homes. Lastly, we'll explore a concept called passive income and see how we deal with it from a tax perspective. Let's get into it.
All right. Ano bang estimated time nito? Mabilis ang mga ito. 2 minutes and 3 minutes, tapos 3 minutes, tapos 3 minutes. So, tapos natin ito tonight.
Let's dive into some rental property. So rental income of property is reported on Schedule E of the tax return, unless the rental property is personal property such as equipment or vehicles. In that case, the rental income is reported on Schedule C. The income of rental property includes cash or fair market value of the property or services received. Bonuses paid to the landlord are included in their income. Rental income is included in gross income unless the residence is rented out for 15 days or less. Interestingly, in that case, the expenses are not deductible, but the income is then not includable. If a deposit is given for rental property, the deposit is included in income if the amount is not to be returned. If the deposit will be returned upon completion of the rental, the amount is not included in income. When an amount is paid to the landlord to modify the lease agreement, the owner has income. However, when an amount is paid to cancel the lease, the amount is income but is considered a capital gain, not ordinary income. Now, sometimes a tenant will maintain property instead of paying rent. The amount is still included in income. Any expenses paid for in this way are also deductible expenses for the owner. When the lessee makes improvements to the property, the fair market value of the improvements are included in income for the lessor, but the cost of the improvement is also deductible. Note, if the improvements are not made in place of rent, the amount is not included in income. So what about prepaid rent? When rent is paid in advance, the amount is automatically included in income when received, regardless of the accounting method. These prepayments, including lease cancellations, improvements, and any advance payments of cash, should be included. Now, in some instances, property is not rented out with the intent of making a profit. In such case, the income is included as income, but expenses may only be deducted up to the income amount. Any amount disallowed is not carried forward to offset future income. All right, that's rental property income. Thanks for watching. Andre, an accrual basis taxpayer, owns a 6-unit apartment building for which he receives rent of $600 per month per unit. In the current year, 5 of the units were rented for the entire 12-month period. The 6th unit was occupied from January 1st through March 31st. Upon vacating the unit, the tenant was not refunded his security deposit of $400 due to damages to the unit. The unit was subsequently rented for 1 year beginning August 1 of the current year. On August 1, the new tenant paid the first and last month's rent and a refundable security deposit of $400. What is Andre's total rental income for the current
year? Kaya nyo mag-compute. Sa 6-unit apartment building, yung 5 rented for 12 months. Isa lang yung medyo magulo. So, yung isa, occupied from January 1 through March 31. And merong refundable security deposit that was no longer returned because of the damages. And then it was subsequently rented starting August 1st of that year. And the payment on that month was a refundable, nagpay siya ng first month and a refundable deposit of $400. So, continue August, September, October, November, December, 5 months, right? And then the deposit is refundable, so hindi siya pwedeng i-include as income. And then other than that, meron siyang income ng January, February, and March, plus the deposit na hindi na din refund. So how much then? For the income? Take note, 600 per month yung kanyang rate ng rent. A lot of you answered A. Let's see.
Year. Okay, lots going on in this problem with respect to the numbers, and really there aren't numbers given to us, and this will happen on the exam. So we've got to kind of work our way through these. All right, so let's think about these components here. The first component that we have is the fact that we get $600 per month per unit, and we've got 5 units rented for the entire 12-month period. So we're going to go for $600 times 12. And we also are going to multiply that times 5 units for the entire 12-month period. So if we do 600 times 12 times 5, we'll pull up our handy-dandy calculator. Don't forget, that's a great tool for you in the exam.
In the actual
12
exam, you will
times
have
5,
access to this
and we come up with $36,000. Okay.
JD. So in the actual exam, you will be having access to a calculator, to this calculator, but you would also be provided with a calculator and a pen and a paper. So pwede kayong mag-compute dun.
So that is $36,000 kind of core. We know that $36,000 has to be included. And obviously, I don't see that as one of our options in the 4 possible responses. So there must be more that we have to include. The 6th unit was occupied from January 1st through March 31st. So that's 3 months at another $600 a piece. So $600 for 3 months, that's $1,800 that we want to pick up there as well. Okay, so we'll include that. So add $1,800 to it. And we will go back to our calculator. 36,000 plus 1,800. And we got $37,800 so far. Okay. $37,800. Okay, still not one of our answers, so we probably need to keep going just to give ourselves some confidence here and double checking. Okay, upon vacating the unit, the tenant was not refunded the security deposit of $400. So that's also going to be included as income. Now, surely Andre's got expenses related to that, but this is looking for income, not for expenses. The security deposit was probably used to fix the apartment back into shape to where we needed it to be. So add another $400 to our total, and we are up to $38,200. Okay, well, still not one of our answers. The unit was subsequently rented out for 1 year beginning August 1st through the current year. So it starts on August 1st, so let's pick up the month of August. So we got August, November, October, November, December, August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. So we're going to pick up, we'll grab our calculator, and we've got $600 a month times 5. And that's another $3,000 that we want to include on that. So we will add $3,000 here to our total. And now we are up to $41,200. Okay, now I see that as one of our possible answers. So $41,200 is listed there on B. It also goes on to ask us about the first and last month's rent and a refundable security deposit of $400. So on August 1st, the new tenant paid the first and last month's rent. So we've got another $600 that we need to include on this. And the reason we're including that $600 is because it is prepaid rent. It will be used. So $41,800 is now the total of where I'm at, which we see that as option C. So finally, the question is, well, do I include this refundable security deposit? If it's refundable, you do not include it because it is not last month's rent. So we want to pick up $41,800. Our answer is C.
All right, some of you got it right.
In the current year, Jerry signed a 5-year lease to rent space to the McBee restaurant. That year, McBee paid Jerry $24,000 for the first year's rent and $24,000 for the last year's rent. Jerry reports his income using the accrual method of accounting. How much of the $48,000 is included in Jerry's current year income? So,
commit muna kayo. So in the current year, Jerry signed a 5-year lease to rent space to the McBee restaurant. That year, McBee paid Jerry $24,000 for the first year rent and $24,000 for the last year's rent. So 48 lahat. Jerry reports his income using the accrual method of accounting. So I guess the question here is, are we going to report the entire 48 or just the 24? Because it's accrual method of accounting. Let's see.
there's a few distractors going on here in this question, right? We see that this is prepaid rent, right? We've got first years and last years. It's not a security deposit, but we're explicitly told that Jerry's on the accrual method of accounting. So do I have to pick up the $24,000 because it hasn't been earned yet? The answer is yes, absolutely you do. In the tax code, specifically in the regulations 1.618-8B, it explicitly explains that whether or not the income or the taxpayer is on the accrual method or the cash method, this is properly includable rental income when you pay the first and the last month's rent. So even though he didn't earn it that last month, I doubt very much that Jerry's going to give that money back to MacB Restaurant. That he's just going to say, look, this is your last month's rent, so don't cut me a check for that very last month. And therefore, it does have to be included under these regulations. So since Jerry has an unrestricted claim on that $24,000 saying that, hey, that's used for your last month's rent, he does have to include that as rental income.
Right. So medyo confusing yun, no? Pagdating sa rental.
Let's take a look at the deductible expenses for rental property. Generally speaking, a taxpayer may deduct expenses paid in relation to the rental property in the year paid. Taxpayers may depreciate property and may even use the Section 179 deduction if eligible and used predominantly for furnishing the property. Depreciation on the property begins as soon as the property is ready to be rented out. Repairs and maintenance may be classified as ordinary expenses as long as they are not paid to improve the property. Improvements should be capitalized. Other common expenses include advertising, supplies, regular upkeep, and similar expenses. Now, special rules limit the deductibility of expenses when the rental property is also used in any amount for personal residence or as a vacation home. In general, the property must be rented out more than 14 days per calendar year to allow expense deduction. Under such circumstances of renting out the property more than 14 days, the rental income may be excluded from income. Vacation home rules, which we will discuss next, apply when the taxpayer uses the residence for personal purposes more than 14 days or more than 10% of the number of days the property was rented out. Personal use days include the days the taxpayer stayed in the home, relatives stayed in the home is rented out in some type of reciprocal agreement, or an individual used it for less than fair rental value. Time the taxpayer stayed in the house to repair and maintain the property actually do not count towards the personal use. When a property amasses minimal rent.
So what that says is that if the rental was less than 14 days, that need not to be reported as income.
Not count towards the personal use. When a property amasses minimal rental use, but not the minimum personal use test of being met, the property is a vacation home. Expenses must be allocated between the personal use and rental use based on the number of days of use for each. When deductions are limited to income because of the vacation home rules, a worksheet is used to figure the allowable deductions. The fully deductible rental expenses include the rental portion of home mortgage interest and rental portion of deductible rental real estate taxes. The next category includes rental portion of expenses directly related to operating or maintaining the property. And finally, depreciation is considered in the last category. If any losses are disallowed in the current year, the amount that is disallowed actually may be carried forward into the next year. Well, that's it for rental property expenses. Thanks for watching. Kathy rented out her summer home for 80 days and used it personally for 20 days. She paid $1,000 for repairs and $2,000 for utilities. Rental income was $8,000. What is Kathy's net rental income? Okay.
Kainin mo na. All right, let's see. A lot of you already answered.
Okay, so we're looking for net rental income, which means we're trying to figure out expenses here as well. So we know that the rental income is going to start with $8,000, but what do we need to subtract? We could take a look at this and see that she paid $1,000 for repairs, $2,000 for utilities, but it's not all related to her activity, to her rental activity. She used it for a good chunk of personal days as well. Well, just how much is related to rent versus personal? For that, this ends up being critically important. The fact that she rented it for 80 days, used it personally for 20 days, we need to prorate here. She's over the 14-day mark for personal use, so we do have to prorate. So 80 and 20, that's 100. Easy math there, right? So 80 out of 100 days, or 80% of her expenses are related to her rental activity. So really, we only get to take 80% of $2,000 and $1,000. So 80% of $3,000, we'll grab our calculator here, 0.8 times 3,000 bucks. We come up with $2,400. All right, so $2,400 is now replacing our question mark. So 8,000 minus $2,400, that's 5,600 bucks. All right, so our answer here, 5,600 bucks over the 14 days, no longer qualifies for that special treatment as de minimis for the vacation usage. Gotta consider this as a vacation home.
Right, so things you need to remember here, 80 days, so meaning it's more than the 14 days minimum. So meaning na pwedeng hindi i-declare yung income. And then need niyang i-prorate because the 20 days personal use was also above the minimum. So if this was 13 days, or less, then the entire 3,000 can be expensed. You get what I'm saying? And how does that work in the actual tax return? So if you're doing a tax return and it has a Schedule E, there is a provision in the Schedule E where you will indicate the number of days it was rented and the number of days it was used for personal. And these are the things that you need to obtain from the taxpayer. So if you're here, and again, we go to Schedule E, rental and royalty income. Where does it go? I hate this use of personal property. Why is it not available in ProConnect? All right, here, number of days rented. I don't know, but for some reason, it doesn't ask for the number of days it was personally used in ProConnect. Most software that I use has a provision where you will indicate the number of days it was used for personal purposes as well. But ProConnect doesn't ask that. That should be okay. I think if you take this on a form view, let's see. Let's take that. And then let's just put something here, just so it comes up on our form. Right. So now you have Schedule E, right? See, fair days rental and personal days. Hindi nag-compute yung, ay kasi wala tayo nilagay. So, versus saying sa pinakataas, yung personal use. Kita niyo guys, personal.
Next to oil and gas, to the right.
Um, days. Lagyan natin dyan, 80. Here. Let's say, ano ba yun, 80 and then, kanina example, 20. No? So, when you put this on a form view, see, it's going to show up here, for days rental, personal days, and then when you input the expenses, it's going to prorate. So let's say, let's just put one expense here. Cleaning, say 3,000. So you don't have to calculate, the form will, or the tax software will do it for you. Ba't niya inallow yung 3,000? This should not be. Let's see. We may have inputted something. Dapat nagka-calculate siya eh. 3,000. Okay, let's set indirect. There. So dapat nilagay siya sa indirect. May mga yung tax software, paiba-iba sila ng approach, right? That's why you need to know the why, right? You need to know the why so that you know how to review your work. You know what I mean? Kasi kung kanina hindi natin alam, we would not be able to determine kung tama ba yung 3,000, right? But we know that it should not be 3,000 because 20 days yung personal use, right? So kahit hindi ko alam na, kasi I don't use ProConnect a lot, kahit hindi ko alam na ilagay sa indirect, I kind of did a trial and error to see if it would show the result that I wanted to see. You get what I mean? All right, let's see if, for example, yung personal use niya is only 10 days. Let's see if the software is smart enough. Nag-prorate pa din siya. So in that case, dapat nilagay na siya sa direct. Right? So that's how this is how ProConnect works. So since we know 10 days, dapat nandyan sa direct. Right? Again, that's important. This is the importance of knowing the principles when we're preparing tax. Kasi kung ang alam lang natin is the how, no, pag-i-input lang, and we don't know how to check our own work, then we may make that mistake, right? And pag na-review yung work natin ng tax preparer or ng reviewer, ng manager, or minsan yung nag-review agad is yung owner, nakita yung mali natin, right? So that's the importance of knowing the why behind the how. Make sense?
And therefore prorate to the extent of income.
Wait lang, sabihin na. Pwede din ba mag-refer sa ProConnect during exam for some calculation? During the actual exam, no.
All right, my friend. So 5,600.
The actual exam resource. Wala
In the current year, Todd.
JB, you have a question?
Hi, Chris. I hope it's okay if I expand a little bit the scenario. What if, for that rental home, I am just renting out a portion of the house? Is that where the percentage of business use apply? Um, I saw in the personal use portion, there's a percentage of business home use.
That's correct. A good spot there, JB. So yes, if only like if it's an Airbnb and you're only renting one room, then you have utilities expense, internet, water. It's hard to allocate that directly. So yeah, you will have to use a percentage of business use here. Okay. Same thing with home office in Schedule C. Remember, that's also the same principle. All right. Okay, tayo doon, JB. Thank you for bringing that question up.
Thanks,
Good job.
Chris.
Pleasure. All right, let's continue with the next question.
Owned a waterfront vacation home that he used from January 1 to February 28th. The rest of the year, he rented the vacation home for $1,000 per month at fair rental price. Mortgage interest for the year was $15,000 and repairs were $1,500. Depreciation was $150 for the rental period. What is the amount that is carried over to the next tax year as unused rental expenses? All right, so couple of things that we got to work through on this particular.
So he used it from January to February. The rest of the year, he rented the vacation home for $1,000 per month. So that means 10 months. Mortgage interest for the year was $15K and repairs were $1,500. Depreciation was $150 for the rental period. What is the amount that is carried over to the next year as unused rental expenses?
Problem. The first is coming up with some proration for the days, right? So we know that there are 365 days in the year, assuming we're not in a leap year, and we are going to take out 31 days for January and then 28 days for the month of February, not a leap year, right? Ends on 28th, not the 29th. So we'll grab our handy dandy calculator. I love it here because this is great practice, my friends. Even if you can do this math in your head, when this environment exactly simulates what it looks like in the exam room, and I promise you your nerves are going to be heightened and you're not going to be thinking as sharply as you really want to be. So practice using the calculator here in the GLIME environment, because when you get to the testing environment, you'll be much more prepared that way. Okay, so 365, take out 31, take out 28 days. That's 306 days, okay? 306 days out of 365 days that we have been using this as rental property. So to get that percentage, 306 divided by 365, we come up with 0.838356164. Okay, some very nauseating percentage here. I'm just going to, for reference purposes, give us a rough estimate of 83.8%. Okay, so 83.8% of my expenses were attributable to my rental activity. So now as we go through this, we see that the rest of the year rented the vacation home for $1,000 per month at fair rental price. So how many months was that? Well, that would have been 10 months and $1,000 per month. So we have $10,000 of rental income. Okay, so what can I subtract from that $10,000 in order to come up with the amounts that I could possibly deduct here? This question is really asking whether or not you understand tier 1, 2, and 3 expenses. And if this is a concept that you're scratching your head with, please go back to your GLIME knowledge transfer outline or back into the study unit here to get a little bit of a refresh on it with tier 1, 2, and 3 expenses. So that being said, let's think about the interest here because he paid a lot of money on the interest. So $15,000 on interest, and that's going to be out of our tier 1 expense. So we'll go back to our calculator. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you a shortcut, $15,000. And we remember order of operations and math. We can just, since we're doing all multiplication and then some division here, we can do this all at one time. So $15,000 times 306 divided by 365. And I come up with a deductible amount of $12,575-ish going on there. So the question is, well, can I deduct that entire amount? Well, I can't, because we don't even have enough rental income to even cover that. So can I carry this forward? Well, no, the remaining interest really should be deductible on this taxpayer's, on Todd's Schedule A as an itemized deduction, if that were to be the case. So we can't let this drive us into a greater loss. So then the question of what about the remaining expenses here? Do we get to carry them over? We should be able to carry them over. So let's figure out how much we are going to carry over. The first one that we had was our repair of $1,500. That needs to get prorated as well. So we're going to take the $1,500 and multiply that times our 306 divided by 365, and I come up with 1,257, call it 1,258, $1,258. Okay, 1,258. Now, I'm going to add to that my depreciation. And the reason I'm adding depreciation without any throttle whatsoever is you're probably sitting there saying to yourself, how come he's not applying the throttle? The reason why is because depreciation only applies to the business use aspect of this, and it's a tier 3 expense. Again, go back to the Gleim knowledge transfer outline if tier 1, 2, and 3 is a little fuzzy for you. Okay, so I come up with $1,408 as unused rental expenses that we can't deduct because they're tier 2 and tier 3. Now, as I go to my answers here, this will happen on occasion in the exam testing environment where I've got 1407. Obviously, the closest one is going to be that to our 1408 that we calculated. And my friends, that's really just because of rounding, right? We saw that we were trying to do some rounding here. And if the rounding was done earlier in the sequence, we would have come up with 1407, but we have 1408, and that's within our realm of tolerance there. So I'm feeling pretty confident because no other option is anywhere close. Okay, so some tips there for you as we're going through and doing our math and how to kind of speed things along so that you're not trying to jot these things around. But in this particular case, our answer is D, $1,407 for our carry forward.
All right, time check, guys. It's 8:57, so we have 3 minutes left. What I'd like you to do, if you have a lot of time to spare, that's scenarios that we've had in the questions. And if you already have access to ProConnect, you may want to put that into practice here. So input the number of days and the number of number of days rented, the number of days used per personal, input the income and the expenses, and see if that, especially on the loss side. So in the loss side of Schedule E, the unused expenses will be, or the loss would actually show up towards the bottom of the Schedule E here. So this portion here would tell you how much of the loss were disallowed and will be carried forward to the next year. And it's very, very important. You don't want to lose that carry forward losses. In the interest of time, we'll ask someone to present tomorrow if you guys are willing, or you can do a Loom recording of how that goes for you. Okay, we'll give you time tomorrow to present. That is very important because one of the most common tax strategy for taxpayers is Schedule E, meaning rental. And if you know rental or Schedule E, you're pretty much an advanced tax preparer. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. You guys have questions, clarifications, As much as I would want to address those, if you can just chat that in our Telegram channel, or you can raise that tomorrow, or there's a way that you can also input that in our shared file. So you have feedback, suggestions, or maybe here, then we'd love to tackle that offline or tomorrow. Okay, so having said that, we'll end tonight's session with a prayer. Aya, if you can take the lead one more time.
Okay, let's close in prayer. Thank you, Jesus, for tonight's learning. We continue to pray that you will continue to bless us and guide us as we continue this journey. We also pray that you will bring us tomorrow again for tomorrow's session. And we pray this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you guys,
Amen.
and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Recording
Chris.
stopped.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You, Chris.
May question pa sana ako doon sa ano.
Tomorrow na lang, Chris. Merry Chris.
Padala ka muna ng suman. Charot.
Thank you, Chris.
Suman.
Suman
Thank
pa rin.
you.
I have to go, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.